Imagine winning the Masters by 12 shots and deciding the swing that did it had to go. 3 years later, Tiger Woods won a U.S. Open by 15. Between those two numbers is one of the most revealing stories in golf. Tiger did not spend his career protecting one perfect motion. He kept rebuilding the machine, even when the machine was already beating everyone. That sounds irrational until you understand the problem he was actually solving. The question was never whether his swing could produce spectacular golf. It obviously could. The question was what happened when the timing was not perfect, the pressure was rising, and the body was moving at a speed almost no one else could match. This is not a story about copying Tiger's positions. It is a story about why an elite player would trade a familiar winning motion for a long period of uncertainty, and what the numbers inside a later Tiger swing reveal about the idea that survived every rebuild. The shape changed. The problem-solving did not. The easy version of the story says Tiger won the 1997 Masters, watched the video, and immediately replaced his swing. The real version is slower and more interesting. In the PGA Tour's retrospective program about his 2000 season, Tiger described the change as an evolution that began after Augusta in 1997. The work ran through the middle of that year, through the struggles of 1998, and into the early part of 1999. In other words, this was not one magical range session, it was a multi-season bet. Tiger's own explanation was blunt. The old motion could create weeks when he won. It could also create weeks when he was fighting to make the cut, or doing very little on the weekend. He wanted his bad golf to finish 10th or 15th, not disappear from the tournament. That is the contradiction at the center of every elite rebuild. The public sees the ceiling, the drives, the recovery shots, the 12-shot victory. The player lives with the floor, the miss that appears when the body outruns the club, the shot that cannot be trusted under one particular pressure, the movement that asks for perfect timing one time too many. Butch Harmon's retrospective description was specific. He said the club could point across the line at the top. With Tiger's body turning so fast, the club could then become stuck behind him on the way down. That is Harmon's diagnosis, not something we are pretending to prove from one camera angle. But it gives us the design brief. Tiger did not need less talent. He wanted fewer conditions under which that talent failed. A swing change at this level is not like installing a new grip and trying it on Saturday. The old motion has millions of repetitions behind it. It has produced real wins, real confidence, and an instinctive answer when the tournament becomes uncomfortable. Replacing any part of it creates a period when the new move is not yet automatic, and the old move no longer feels completely available. That is why Tiger's willingness to rebuild matters as much as the technical details. He was accepting short-term volatility to raise the long-term floor. The goal was not to make the swing prettier. The goal was to organize enormous speed with more predictable control. Look at the problem as two systems. System 1 can create the best shot in the field, but its misses spread in several directions when the sequence drifts. System 2 may not look as explosive in one frozen frame, but it gives the player a narrower family of outcomes. The club, the body, and the strike have more room to arrive together. That does not mean one neutral-looking top position automatically creates accuracy. A golf swing is motion, not a collection of photographs. The change has to survive the transition, delivery, and impact. By 2000, the competitive output was impossible to ignore. At Pebble Beach, Tiger won the U.S. Open by 15 strokes. He was the only player under par. The USGA's review says he led the field in both driving distance and greens in regulation. Speed and control were no longer competing ideas. They had become the same system. And that is a more useful way to understand the rebuild than arguing about whether one shaft line looked better than another. Tiger was building a swing whose bad version could still contend. Now we need to separate history from measurement. The short Tiger clip in our evidence window compares 2000 with 2019. From the 2019 side, we extracted 10 real checkpoints: address, takeaway, lead arm parallel, the top, transition, delivery, impact, release, follow-through, and finish. Those are captured poses. The background has been removed for analysis, but the player pixels come from the real source frames. At address, the system is quiet, but the swing is already defined by relationships, posture, distance from the ball, hand position, foot line, and the space the club will travel through. During the takeaway, the club, hands, and torso begin organizing together. A single frame cannot tell us the entire cause, but it can show whether the motion is staying connected or immediately separating into compensations. At lead arm parallel, the backswing has established width and direction. At the top, the most photographed position in golf, almost nothing is finished. The real question is not where the club pauses. It is what the player can do next. Transition is where the order changes. The lower body begins moving toward the target while the club is still completing its journey back. That overlap is why elite motion can look smooth while producing violent speed. Delivery compresses the decision. The pelvis, chest, arms, hands, and shaft do not reach maximum speed together. They contribute in an order. Impact is only a few thousandths of a second, but it is where every earlier choice becomes visible in the strike. Then the club releases, the body keeps turning, and the finish shows how the player absorbed the speed he created. 10 frames do not turn ordinary video into a laboratory. Camera perspective can distort position. A hidden joint remains hidden. A screen space line is not a force plate. But 10 honest checkpoints are better than one perfect-looking pose, because the swing's intelligence lives in the transitions between them. For a different, later Tiger swing, Sportsbox published a 3-dimensional case study with 7 values we can actually put on screen. These numbers do not describe the 1997 Masters swing. They do not describe every version of Tiger. They belong to the specific swing Sportsbox analyzed. That boundary matters. First, the vertical motion. Sportsbox reported that Tiger's pelvis dropped 3.6 inches during the downswing, then lifted 3.7 inches into impact from its lowest point. The important idea is not stand up through the ball. The drop and the lift are parts of a sequence. The body creates space, changes direction, and then uses the ground and its own geometry to keep accelerating. Copy only the last visible piece and you lose the reason it worked. Second, the movement toward the target. The case study reported 1.5 inches of chest slide and 2.5 inches of pelvis slide in transition. That is why the word sway is often too crude. Movement toward the target is not automatically a fault. What matters is when it occurs, how much occurs, and whether the player can keep turning and delivering the club. The motion is down, then forward, then up, overlapping, not divided into 3 robotic commands. Third, the transfer of speed. Sportsbox calculated a wrist speed gain factor of 2.55 times. It reported shaft angular speed of 2,353 degrees per second. That sequence converted into a reported clubhead speed of 119 miles per hour. The headline number is 119. The more interesting number may be 2.55. Speed is not simply how hard the shoulders turn from the top. It is how effectively one moving segment passes energy and timing into the next. The body starts the chain. The hands and club do not merely get dragged behind it. They accelerate later when later is useful. This is why a powerful swing can look unhurried. The peaks are separated. Pelvis, torso, arms, hands, shaft, club head. Our curves are conceptual because the public case study does not provide a complete synchronized data file for every segment. But the displayed Tiger values are source-reported, and the distinction remains visible. The visualization is not pretending to know more than the evidence. It is showing exactly where knowledge ends. Here is what we do not know from that matched source. We do not have a compatible ball speed, spin rate, carry distance, attack angle, club path, face angle, dynamic loft, or ground force record for the exact swing in our analysis. So those fields stay null. That may look less impressive than filling the screen with numbers. It is also the difference between analysis and costume. Ordinary video can show us that a foot moved. It cannot tell us the exact force under that foot. A down-the-line frame can support a screen space club trace. It cannot reveal a hidden club face angle with laboratory precision. A beautiful finish can suggest balance. It cannot prove what the player felt or intended. The modern golf internet often rewards certainty. Draw a line, name a fault, promise a fix. But Tiger's own career argues for a better standard. The same player can win with different shapes. The correct question is not, does this match the model? The correct question is, what problem does this movement solve? And what new problem does it create? The first rebuild was not the last. Tiger and Butch Harmon separated in late 2002. After a long stretch without a stroke play win, Tiger began working with Hank Haney in 2004. The public wanted the same answer it always wants. Why change a partnership and a swing that had produced 4 consecutive major championships? Tiger's answer, as summarized by the PGA Tour, was the same answer that started the first rebuild: get better. The transition was not immediately clean. His 2004 season produced only 1 victory, his least successful season since 1998. Then the work preceded another period of extraordinary winning. Years later, the problem changed again. Sean Foley and Tiger worked through an era in which posture, alignment, equipment, and physical load were part of the conversation. Their coaching relationship ended in August 2014. By early 2015, Tiger was working with Chris Como. Tiger's own site reported that they studied old swing footage while pursuing more distance, more consistency, and a lower chance of injury. Notice what is happening. There is no single Tiger swing moving through time unchanged. There is a series of solutions: a young body organizing speed, a dominant player narrowing misses, a veteran adapting to equipment, pain, surgery, and a different physical reality. The mistake is treating those versions like a beauty contest. Which Tiger swing looked best? The better question is whether each version matched the problem, the body, and the competitive demand of that moment. Rory McIlroy gives us a useful comparison precisely because his swing does not need to look like Tiger's to create elite speed. Our Rory excerpt is qualitative. We do not have a definition-compatible set of 3-dimensional measurements for both players in the exact clips, so there is no fake leaderboard of hip turn, pressure, or club speed. What we can compare is organization. At the top, both players have created space to change direction. In transition, the visible shapes differ, but the task is shared. Begin reorienting the body while the club still has distance to travel. In delivery, the body must keep moving without pulling the club into a place from which the hands have to rescue it. And through impact, speed has to become a strike. Rory's motion is a reminder that power is not one pose. A player can organize rotation, vertical motion, and release through a different-looking blueprint and still solve the same problem. That is why the Tiger lesson is not to copy Tiger. It is to understand the architecture, create time, create space, let speed arrive in an order, then make the club meet the ball predictably. Everything else is a player's negotiation with his own body. Scottie Scheffler makes the point even more clearly. His footwork is impossible to miss. The trail foot moves, the lead foot responds. The finish can look like the ground is still negotiating with him after the ball has gone. If golf were judged as a pose competition, the movement would look suspicious. Golf is judged by the strike and the score. Our comparison does not claim to measure the forces under Scottie's feet. Ordinary slow motion cannot give us that. It shows only the visible movement and the functional result around it. Scottie's balance is dynamic, not still. That distinction matters because many swing arguments confuse quiet with controlled. Tiger's versions change shape. Rory organizes speed through his own pattern. Scottie allows motion that another player might spend years trying to remove. The common fingerprint is not identical geometry. It is functional sequencing. The player creates speed, retains enough space to deliver the club, and organizes the motion so the strike survives competitive pressure. Setup, shape, speed, adapt. Those four ideas survive every rebuild better than any single line drawn on the screen. So what should an ordinary golfer take from all of this? Not Tiger's top position, not Rory's turn, not Scottie's feet. The useful lesson is the process. Start with the miss you are actually trying to change. Protect the pieces that already work. Measure what you can, label what you cannot, and judge the rebuild by the pattern it produces, not by how convincing one freeze frame looks on social media. Tiger Woods won the 1997 Masters by 12 shots and still decided that his future required a different motion. 3 years later, he won the US Open by 15 and led the field in both distance and greens in regulation. That does not prove every golfer should rebuild. It proves the opposite. A rebuild is worth the cost only when the problem is important enough, the evidence is honest enough, and the new motion can make your bad golf better, not merely make your practice swing prettier. Tiger's greatest swing may be impossible to choose. His greatest swing skill is easier to see. He could change the machine without losing the competitor inside it.